Welcome back to the Walker Family Farm. Here I'm showing you the process that I complete every year to prepare our garden beds for the winter. First I'll start off by tilling everything. This was actually our corn bed, so I normally till it all up, and then once it's completed I'll actually put like I'll link it in the description, but it's like a black plastic that we keep on it all winter to make sure that it keeps all the weeds dead so nothing grows, so the soil stays nice and soft and fluffy. So all I have to do when I take it back off, I do typically till it again, but it's nowhere near as bad as it is, for example, in this video. I actually, for the small beds, I use a weed eater. I have a Ryobi weed eater, and they have an attachment that has a tiller on it, so I'm able to use that for the garden beds, the raised beds, and those do pretty well. So here you can see I'm starting to cover it with the plastic that I told you about, and I typically grab a bunch of little blocks and stuff like that and put it in the corners, and then I also put it like somewhat in the middle and the sides, just kind of depending, because it prevents the wind from catching underneath of it and pulling it away, and so far that's done a pretty good job. And the only recommendation that I have when you're using this method is that when you're cutting your plastic, be sure to cut it quite a bit longer, because once you push it all down and it's up the sides, it seems much shorter than you cut it to be. And as a result, you'll have weeds growing up the sides of the plastic all the way around. Makes it a little bit more difficult.
Hey there, so you will see in the beginning of this video that I was working on completely covering the garden and our raised bed garden for this upcoming year back in the winter, and ultimately we figured out we were going to move it, so we did not finish the process of covering it, and so here is the update. So we did move it to the back of our yard and basically set it up so that I can run the zero-turn mower through in between the beds, since I was planning on eventually building a garage in the place of where it was before. So eventually we'll have, we decided to use the woven weed fabric this year, or I guess you call it weed barrier. It's different than landscape fabric, it's because it's woven and thicker. So yeah, I'm gonna do this bed. We already created the rows in our long bed for the corn, so I started covering this. Sorry about that, I had to let a jet pass over. So what I wanted to discuss is that what I'm going to probably do is I'm probably going to cut the fabric here so that way the next sheet can overlap inside of the lower part. I think it's called the trough. And so that way the staples are running through double and overlapping there and not on the top of a row. Because the way that you're supposed to cut this stuff is not with a razor. You're supposed to use a soldering iron, for example. And so we'll complete that. We're gonna eventually put our pumpkins here and here and let them kind of grow into the corn. And then we also have another bed here that will be covered. We haven't fully decided on what we're gonna plant yet. We know flowers will go here, so we don't need to cover that one. And then we have strawberries over here. So essentially what I did to bring all the beds to the back of the yard was I created this, it's just basically like a piece of siding from Home Depot that you would use to put on the side of a shed, and I had extra pieces of it, so I just cut holes like through right here, like on both sides, ran a chain through it, and then attached it to the four-wheeler like this, so that way if I'd like pry up the bed and then push it over onto here on one side and then do the same thing on the other side, which I use like poles and stuff like that to pry it up in the air just to like push it over. And after it was leveraged on there, I was able to just take the four-wheeler and drive it, you know, wherever it needed to be, and then do the same thing to take it off. So that saved a lot of trouble because I didn't have a tractor to do anything with.
Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay healthy from the Walker Family Farm.